Tom Keating returned home from the Army as a specialist 5th class. He's currently working on his memoir about his time in Vietnam during the conflict. We sat down with him to find out why he wants to tell his story.
I joined the U.S. Army. I enlisted after college in 1968. And after a year training, I was sent to Vietnam. And my war was a different war than what you usually think about if you watch the Ken Burns thing, you know, what all the shooting. I was a support soldier. I wrote contracts. But even so, there was a lot of stress and danger. And I kept a diary or a journal when I was over there, because one day I was going to write the big novel. That didn't happen. But as I retired, I started remembering things and I started putting them down on paper. So this book that I'm working on now is a memoir of my military service, the 2 years I was in the U.S. Army, including the year in Vietnam, and a little bit after. In 1969, I was assigned to a headquarters unit in the Republic of Vietnam to be a contract specialist. In other words, typing contracts for the different vendors that were building bases or selling stuff to the military. And that job finished, and I got a new assignment with another group within that same headquarters. And one of the commanding officers was going home. His time was up, his tour was up. And he told me that he wanted me to go pick up his elephants. I didn't know what he was talking about, and then I realized he was talking about the ceramic elephants that for some reason the officers love to buy these ceramic elephant plant stands and send them home, I guess as a memento of their service in the country. So this story is about me finding out how to get out to this little village, pick up the elephants, and bring them back to this colonel before he can go home in the midst of a war zone. It's kind of bizarre. This chapter is entitled The Elephants, and in Vietnamese the word for elephant is convoy. So it's kind of funny that this chapter about me going on a convoy to get ceramic elephants, it's kind of ironic. I've been attending a course at Boston College for veterans to write their memoirs. While I was there, I found out about the Joyner Institute at University of Massachusetts, Boston, which has a week-long masterclass for writers, especially veterans. So I applied and submitted a story, and they accepted it, and I was able to attend the program in June this last year. While I was there, one of the things the program does is allow writers to read their stories in front of everybody at the end of the week. And I read my story about the elephants, and a man came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, I want to publish that in my anthology." And I said, "Really?" So he said, "Really?" So with some editing and from their editor and my tweaking the story, I submitted it, and it'll be published on November 11th in their War Stories anthology, which is sponsored by the Oregon Humanities Group in Oregon. I'm hoping that the stories and my memoir will shed a different light on my experience as a military man in Vietnam.